Welcome. You are listening to Readers and Writers with your hosts, James Hill and Athena Paris of RockHill Publishing. I'm Amy Ravichandran, and today we are discussing writing your synopsis. That is just a hard word. Anyways, it's a hard word for me. Words are hard. But we're talking about writing your synopsis. And so when should you do that? Should you wait till your whole story is complete? Do you do it beforehand? Kind of what's your guys' opinion on that?
Well, Amy, it's a hard word for me too.
Oh, good.
Synopsis. I can say it, I just can't spell it.
I gotta slow down. Synopsis. You know, it's just some words just really get you, and that is just one for me.
Yeah, I can't spell it, but I can pronounce it.
There
But you should write your synopsis before you write your story, before you write your outline, because your synopsis is what your story is going to be about. It's your idea. So, and you should write. For me, I just write out the entire story. You shouldn't send the synopsis out like it's not to be used as a like you don't want to put it out there the entire thing because it will tell people everything about the story. So you don't want to put it out there like that, but you should write a detailed synopsis. And from that, for me, from that, I write my outline and everything else. And sometimes the synopsis is only like a page or so long. When I say detail, I mean, you want to touch on every point you plan to cover in your story. It could be a couple of pages, could be one page.
Yeah. Well, so what if your story changes though? You just go and tweak your synopsis? See, I got it that time.
Yeah. Okay. I read the synopsis as is. I tweak the outlines and things like that. I usually don't go back and change my synopsis because it's a synopsis.
Yeah, well, a synopsis is what you actually do send to agents and publishers because they want to know exactly what happens in your story to see if it's interesting enough or not. So for them, that's what works. It's a synopsis. So if they ask for one, you send them one. Now the detail, how much detail you put in it, now that's up to you because you can have a one-page synopsis of an entire story. And it can be quite well written that, picks the interest of that agent or that publisher. Or it can be 3 pages, 5 pages, 10 pages. It all depends. Now, from that, a publisher or an agent can figure out, okay, so this writer, they waffle a lot. I got a 10-page synopsis. What is this? A 300, 500-page book? You see, so now they can actually judge you on how you write your synopsis. So there is such a thing as be careful, go for the middle road. Usually the middle road is usually the best. And when in doubt, simplify. And
I was saying you don't want to send it out. I didn't mean not to publishers or agents and stuff. They need to see the full synopsis. They need to know exactly everything about the story. Why I say don't send it out. You can use it for your back cover blurb and you can use sections of it. You don't want to put the entire synopsis out as the advertisement for your book, because that would tell, because if you read the synopsis, people will know exactly what the book is about and therefore they wouldn't read your book. It's sort of like, you're telling everything about the story. If you do that, why do they need to read the story?
Yes, exactly.
So
you reveal everything. Your synopsis got all the reveals in it. Where the climax is, who the bad guy is, all of those things.
All the twists and turns, and of course the ending, So you have to put all that in there. So that's why when you write a synopsis, you should make it as detailed as possible. But like Athena was saying, making it detailed doesn't mean you have to make it long. You don't have to tell somebody every single thing that you intend to cover in the story. If you make it that detailed, you're pretty much writing the short story of your story. And that becomes too much detail for the publisher or whatever, but then they're thinking, you wrote a 10, like she said, you wrote a 10-page synopsis. How big is this book going to be? You know,
Right.
it doesn't have to necessarily be that big, but you don't have to be that detailed in your synopsis to tell them every single scene as it goes on. You know, you want to be detailed and let them know the major scenes and the major things that's going to happen in the story, but you don't have to tell them every scene. And as you say, if things change, do I change the synopsis?
Yeah.
No, because I figure the synopsis and the story is not going to be exactly the same. As I'm writing the story, they're going to be things that I didn't think of when I was writing the synopsis that's going to wind up in the story, because as you write a story, things come to you, you go down this rabbit hole, you take that sidetrack, and that's not going to be in your synopsis because you had no idea you were going there.
Right.
And you don't need to edit either.
So when you write a synopsis, what is really good about it, why you should write it first, is because it actually, your brain is remembering the way the story is going, because you're telling the story to yourself, and then this happens, and then this happens. So you actually setting out the outline of your story. So when you write the synopsis, you are seeing the scenes that you are going to develop, because obviously here they're not developed yet. So I don't know why it is, but every writer hates synopsis. Why? Because we hate writing them, because we like to develop the story as the story goes. And this is usually true for pantsers. They hate synopsis through and through because they want to see how does it reveal itself. I'm going to waste my time writing a 5-page synopsis when I can just be writing the book. And then I'll go back and I'll summarize. So in other words, now they're thinking of going to summarize 100-page, and they get twisted, they hate it. And I don't blame them, because I don't like synopsis either, but it is much better to write it first instead of after the story has been written.
Yeah, like last week we talked about the outline and how you outline the story and why you outline the story, and the pantsers and the plotters and stuff like that. So when we talk about synopsis, they go hand in hand with the outline. And the idea is, if you wait until after your story's written to write the synopsis, you are really working hard to figure out, okay, what do I want to say about my story? What's my main plot points? What's my theme? How does my story go? And you got to go back and you got to deconstruct your story in order to write it as a synopsis that you're now going to send out to publishers and stuff. So the idea of writing that first gives you a structure that you can then build your outline on. You can build your story. You have the idea of, this is what my story is going to be about. These are the major scenes that I want to put into the story. And you got a structure that you can follow throughout while you're writing your story. It's like building a house and then going back and trying to build the draft of the house, you know, the blueprints of the house. After you built the house, I got to go back now and look at the finished walls and the finished thing. And I got to write in now on my blueprint, where are all the pipes? Where are all the electrical wires? Where you can't see any of that once you built the house. So that's why you do the blueprint before you build the house. Because I can look at the ceiling and see I have a light fixture in my ceiling. I have no idea where that wire runs or where it's coming from. So doing the synopsis before you do the book helps you with the idea of, okay, I know where my story going. I know what my major points are. Because once you start writing the story and you get sidetracked into this and to that, those are sidetracks. You don't need to put that in your synopsis. It's in the story and it makes for a good story, but it's not what the main story is about. And that's what your synopsis should be. It should be what the main story is.
So it would be like your beginning and your like climactic part and then your end, right? So it's like a brief summary of it. So then what would be, you know, a good like average length of a synopsis for like a fiction writer, a sci-fi fantasy writer?
I try not to go over 2 to 3 pages.
Okay.
1 page is somewhat too short for a full-length novel, but anything over 2 pages to me is too long.
So what you're saying is I can't just do a sentence, right? That just says they all die. If I'm like a horror writer, I can't just be like, they all died. That can't be my summary of like,
They all die.
It's ultimately what it would be about, right? I mean, it's a horror book. Everyone's going to wind up dead at some point, you know?
They enter the house, everyone gets killed.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you could write something like that, and you say, okay, so John, as soon as he steps in the doorway, he's going to get it there. Then Amy is going to go up the, okay, but she's the survivor, so let's leave Amy alone. And then Sam is going to go 3 steps up, and then he's going to crash right through the stairs or whatever. So you can do it that way if it's the horror. So you say how everybody's going to get it.
How everyone's going to go. See, I don't know. I feel like that's what I would do. But I do know that like your synopsis, though, it's a beneficial in terms of marketing, like if you're trying to get pre-orders and things like that, because you can pull different blurbs from them to make it enticing for people to want to pre-order your book and things like that. So, I mean, is it fair to say, besides, publishing your book and writing the story, your synopsis is probably the most important part of that, because that's ultimately what is going, like if you're pitching to agents or to publishers, that's kind of your gateway in, like your doorway in. So that needs to be like the best version of it, because the writing and stuff, I feel like always in time, like the more that you publish books and stuff, the better like writer you become and things like that with each book. So is it fair to say that your synopsis is what needs to be like on point every time?
What I have found is that, and when you ask me about rewriting the synopsis, I don't rewrite the synopsis for myself, but I do rewrite the synopsis to pull out the blurbs, to pull out the pitch. I'll go in and I'll take that synopsis, which is, let's say 1,000 words, and I'll cut it down to 25 to 50 words, and that'll be my blurb. Or I'll cut it down to, so many 100 words, and that'll be my pitch that I'm sending out. So I take that synopsis and I rework it for my marketing. So because in that synopsis, there should be enough information about the story that I could pull out a few important facts about the story, and I can use it for different things like the blurb, for the pitch, for advertising, teasers, one-liners, things like that. But sometimes they wind up in the synopsis. It's like, you have this one line that just, you think is so great, and you're going to use that line somehow. You're going to work that into your story. And so that one line, Johnny never thought he would be here, but now that he is, or some crazy thing like that,
Right.
So, and you think that is such a great line, and you're going to use that in your story. You got it in your synopsis. You're going to put it on the back of the book somewhere. And so that kind of thing you wind up doing when you say, do you rewrite your synopsis? Yeah, you rewrite it to use it for marketing, because from that synopsis, you can pull out really good nuggets that you can use to sell the book.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's more, I don't know. Does this synopsis, okay, because I feel like I've seen it, but maybe not. I feel like, does this synopsis ever go like in your book? Does that ever happen? I feel like I've seen it like in a book, like I've bought a book and it says like synopsis of the story. Is that something that like usually happens? Or maybe I'm dreaming.
No.
Sometimes I can dream those things and they feel real. So, I mean, that could totally be it too. Because I have like witnessed that or seen that, but maybe that's just like on online books, maybe.
Yeah, it could be that it's a synopsis of either a previous book, especially in a series. Sometimes you could do that. So if you've got 7 books in a series and somebody is only starting to read in book 3, you could include the synopsis of book 1 and 2, and then you realize, oh, I missed a lot. I think I want to go and read it out, the complete story. And then you appreciate the synopsis in that way, because the synopsis is telling you what happened in book 1 and 2. And then you're like, oh, he was murdered. Oh, that one fell off a horse. That one, whatever happens, I want to go see how that happened. So then it doesn't matter that the synopsis is in its entirety in that book, because it's of previously published books already.
Yeah, see, that makes more sense, because I feel like I would have read it in like a series and I had picked up just like one of the versions of it, so that would make more sense. I could see that, like putting them in there for series, because you never know what, if they're just picking it up and reading it or whatever, they didn't realize that it was a series. But I do know that next week we're talking Big Fish, Little Fish, which I'm excited because I just like the title name, Big Fish, Little Fish. I feel like it's going to involve the best way to do publishing and how to sell your books and what your end goal and everything should be. Are you a little fish in a big pond, or are you the big fish in a little pond? That's all. I grew up with that saying, so I'm excited to talk about it. But you guys have been listening to Readers and Writers, and we'll catch you all next week. Bye, everybody.